For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Live from the back of Ruth the Realtor's car, it's the Stacking Deed Show. I'm Ruth's neighbor and part-time mechanic Doug, broadcasting live from the spacious, luxurious trunk recording studio. On today's show, we'll show you how to ditch the hustle culture and help you and your neighbors become wealthy with real estate investor and big-time charitable giver, Randy Molland. In our headlines, what's up with the cost of insurance? We'll share details on that and other factors to consider when budgeting for your next deal. Plus, we'll answer a call to Ruth's rotary phone from Jamaica about how to accurately estimate repairs on a fixer-upper. And faster than you can say, "Yeah, man," I'll limbo over with my property pop quiz. And now, two people who are surfing in on a wave of laughter. He's the jerk to her chicken. It's Crystal Hammond and Joe Saul. See hi.
Well, good morning, Joe.
Guess which one of us writes the open? Guess. I just want people to take a wild guess how I got to be the jerk.
It's a theme. I don't know why we have a Jamaica theme, Mon, but hey.
No idea.
Here we are.
Yes.
Miss Cleo. What is it called? We're enchanting.
You know what we're doing? We're manifesting real estate growth, real estate love. That's what we're doing today. Yes. Welcome to the Stacking Deed Show, everybody. That's exactly what we do. She's Crystal. I'm Joe. Crystal, you ready to party?
Oh, yeah. Let's do this. Well, you said let's do it, and that's how Bust a Move starts. If you want it, you got it.
If people don't get the video, we don't have the video yet. Yeah, the shoulders going up and down. Crystal's got all the moves today. I've got none, as usual, but we do have
a great show.
Fantastic show. So let's get rolling.
Hello, chaps. And now our Stacking Deeds headlines. Cheerio and pip-pip.
Our headline today comes to us from Bloomberg. This is written by Michael Sasso. In Southwest Florida, high home insurance rates are driving away would-be buyers. And he writes, Florida's Southwest coast, long one of America's fastest growing regions, is losing some of its boomtown swagger as a home insurance crisis and other soaring costs make homes unaffordable. Homeowners from Sarasota south to Naples, known for its 8-figure waterfront mansions, having a tougher time selling their properties. The buildup in inventories caused home prices to fall at some of the fastest rates in the nation. Realtors points to rising insurance costs that were exacerbated by Hurricane Ian in 2022, prompting some homeowners to list their homes for sale and would-be buyers to walk. This is maybe not surprising, Crystal, but not just in Florida, but across the South.
Oh, definitely. We even did a previous show about what state floods the most, and it was Texas. We all guessed Florida, and little known fact, it's in Texas. And this happened to me too. My insurance, because my homeowner's insurance was in escrow, so I was just paying and get those mortgage statements. And then I just looked up one year and it had doubled. So this is another testament to paying attention to what you're paying, because every month I just assumed it was insurance rates, or I assumed it was something else like mortgage interest, but it was my insurance that was going up. So I quickly hopped on the phone, called my insurance agent, and lo and behold, it went right back to the half amount that I was paying before.
What?
So make those phone calls, you guys.
So insurance is regulated by the state, though. So if your insurance agent must have either changed companies or changed policies.
I don't know what, they were just in incremental each year. It just kept increasing. And then when I called, I was like, they were like, oh, okay, we can find a better rate for you. Even this month, I have my auto and homeowners on auto pay. And so they, send the email, hey, we're about to take the next auto pay. And I noticed they were up by $400. And I'm like, nope, nope, nope. So I actually did the calling. It took me about, I'd say 3 weeks to finally do it because I'm like, all right, you need to call. It was just like, I don't feel like calling. I don't feel like sitting on the phone.
Hassling with them.
But I did it all from my phone and I'm $400 cheaper now on my auto and combined policy. So,
well, here's what happens. I do know what happens with insurance policy. So insurance is regulated by the state.
mm-hmm.
And while a lot of times people will think, insurance X is a ripoff, usually people are either buying more insurance, they're buying the wrong type, they have it for the wrong reason. It's easy to fool a regulator once, but not year after year after year. So whenever you see somebody online just going, I'm getting ripped off, that actually isn't what's happening. What is happening is that you are no longer in the target market of a certain insurance company. So let's say that you're with Allstate and then you have a birthday. That birthday might have sent you out of the target range of who they want to work with. And if you had never had a birthday, your rate might not have gone up. But the second you have a birthday, you're in a new category now. And now they bump you up into whatever the categories they don't want to work with, which is why I asked when you told that story, Crystal, I'm like, did you change your companies?
Oh.
Because often you'll change companies or the insurance agent will either, well, there could be two things going on. One is that the insurance agent lowers the amount of insurance coverage you get, which is why you want to look at that declaration page of your old policy and your new policy. And if the agent tells you, oh, I got you a better rate with the same company, I want to look at what I used to have versus what I have now, because what they might have done was magically reduce the coverage you have. And for some of it, you don't want that, you're like, forget it. But there could be a third thing going on. And I think with insurance rates going up and up and up and up and insurance companies struggling, and we are talking about this on the Stacking Benjamin show this week, by the way, insurance agents are going to be more likely to make sure they tell you what all the discounts are. So what might have happened, and this is a horrible thing, insurance companies can't rip you off, but insurance agents can, right?
Oh.
Because insurance agents, they know all of the ins and outs of the policy. So the company will go to the state, let's say the state of Maryland as an example, because you're about to drive to Maryland as soon as we get done with this. So they go to the state of Maryland. Maryland goes, okay, this is all in the up and up, boom. But the insurance agent knows you get a discount for this, you get a discount for this. I'm not going to tell Crystal about those because I get a higher commission if I don't. And if she's happy with the policy without taking advantage of these. So I do think that with insurance companies struggling a little bit, that you're going to see not only some innovation in insurance, but you're also going to see more insurance agents go, oh, here's all the discounts. These are so I'm wondering which one of those happened to you, Crystal.
Well, that's good to know because even my mom went through this when hers went up. And so she actually, sat down. I was like, all right, it's time to make the phone call. And they were like, oh, yeah, that previous company went out of business. And so we just gave you the next best thing. And it's like, okay, nope, I have time. Let's sit on and shop. And so they shopped her around and then got a rate that was, close to what she was paying before. But that was another issue because when she called the company the first time, I don't want to call the person an idiot, but she got a person who, couldn't explain to her why her rates went up. So she just ended up hanging up and was like, all right, I'll just call back at another time. And then that next time she did get a person who, knew a lot more than that previous person knew. And I was like, that's another thing that our dealers need to add to our tool belts is when we're calling, we need to make sure, one, the person that we're speaking to is knowledgeable. And if not, you can lose connection, quote unquote, or, I have to go to the bathroom. I can take you with me to the bathroom, or I'll just, hang up and call you back. Be like, I had Taco Bell and I got to go to the bathroom. No, you can sit with me.
Just bridge too far.
So just, don't be afraid to hang up and say, you know what, this person doesn't know and this person can't help me. Yeah. I'll just call back to get another, knowledgeable agent.
Yeah. No, you definitely do. And by the way, I do like a good agent versus doing it yourself. I know that you can often pay less by going with a company that doesn't have agents. That's fine if you really know what you're doing. But I'll tell you, some of these agents who are brokers are absolutely fantastic. Now, I want a broker because of the fact that I want the agent to be able to work with many different companies versus a single company. Like, as an example, I know that they have lots of advertisements. I know that, by the way, they're a sponsor of the Stacking Benjamin Show, State Farm. I'm going to talk about State Farm here. State Farm, not known for the lowest rates, right? Just not known for that. They'll tell you on TV, hey, we're competitive or whatever. And by the way,
they got to pay Jake.
That's right. And people are wondering, Joe, if they don't have the lowest rates, why do you let them sponsor the show? You know what they do have, Crystal? They always pay. They have phenomenal agents. They're there when you need them. If you go with State Farm, you're going to pay a little more. And this is me talking, not State Farm talking. You're going to pay a little more, but they're always going to be there when you need them. And their agents are so knowledgeable and so trained and so ready. So when State Farm said, we'd like to sponsor your show, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
Well, that does make a difference because with insurance, we have no problem. They have no issues when it's time to take your money every month or every 6 months. But when you have a claim, that's the first thing that happens. Oh, it's all this red tape. And
I got rid of an insurance agent so quickly. Our house got broken into. And so I call up this local company I was working with in Texarkana. And the woman I was working with was like, oh yeah, I don't handle any of that. Like, wasn't even remotely helpful. It was like, oh, I got to get you to the insurance company. Okay, that's great. But you spent a lot of time with me selling me the policy. This is when I actually need you. I didn't need you then. I need you now, baby. Like, this is,
let's do this.
This is now.
Make
that
me
I need
whole.
You. Oh, and I called her 2 or 3 times with questions about it. And she was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like,
I'm in sales. Can't you see I'm in sales?
Oh, I immediately dumped them. I'm like, why do I have the middleman? I don't need the middleman. Like, if you're doing nothing for me, well, then hell, I'll go right to the company every time. But I didn't do that. I went and found a different company. By the way, there I think is a bigger thing here, Crystal, beyond insurance, which is just if you're going to be a remote landlord, and we've had lots of guests on the show that have been remote landlords.
I am too. Yeah.
You got to know what's going on in that neighborhood. If you're in Galveston, Texas, and you don't know anything about Texas, to your point, you're like, oh, I'm in Texas. What's the threat of flooding? In Galveston, Texas, huge threat of flooding. In Dallas, probably not. So you got to know where you're at. I think, like, know the local, what the big things are.
And that also goes into your calculations, because then if you're thinking, okay, if I want to buy this property or not, you may need to add an extra percentage in your insurance budget just to account for, hey, look, there's flooding here. So insurance is definitely going to cost more, like to Joe's example, in Galveston than Dallas. You think, oh yeah, it's just Texas. It's pretty similar, but nope. Make sure you account for all this stuff in your budget when you're doing your envelope pencil math and you're saying yes or no. Make sure you know how to, and even this is happening in DC. I heard a report just yesterday where they were saying renting is now it's averaging $600 cheaper than having a mortgage. And insurance was one of the biggest factors. You would think it's the mortgage interest rates. Mortgage interest rates are going down, but it's thanks to insurance. Home insurance is what has been the cause of these increases.
And Crystal, all about know your numbers. Know your numbers. She says the line. If you're playing the bingo game at home, she said it.
Said what? Say what? No. See, I'm glad we have you, the financial planner, because we had a conversation at work about things we wish we learned. And last week when you broke down life insurance and how life insurance works, it would have been so helpful to have a conversation like that in high school or even college, just about how it works, because now I have a huge understanding just from, a listener question too about how life insurance. So now to know a little bit more about how homeowners
and frankly, 4 minutes is a little complicated, but once you get past that, you completely look at life insurance differently. And the same thing here with this. Talking about these local issues and knowing what's going on, like, oh, Kansas, do they have tornadoes?
Dorothy has a thing to say about it.
When Tampa Bay was playing my Detroit Lions in the playoffs, the coach of Tampa Bay was doing a press conference. They were getting ready to come to Detroit to play. In January, they were going to play. And I think, Crystal, this poor woman, The person who's normally the sports reporter for this particular outlet must have been sick or something, because there's no way this person was actually a sports reporter. Because she said, you know, you used to playing in Florida in sunshine, and now you've got to go to Detroit where the weather is significantly different. So are you worried at all? Are you prepared? And the Tampa coach gives her this like stare and goes, Detroit plays in a dome. They've always played in a dome.
Yikes. Ouch. Ouch. Ouch.
Yes, but are you prepared for that time you're going to be on the bus and navigating the roads? And then your people got to get out and walk that 100 yards, you know, to the tunnel.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Insert foot.
Know your stuff. If you're going to be an expert, seriously.
Quote unquote.
I mean, it's funny. I did feel bad for the person because I don't know if they were handed at the last minute. But think about this. This woman is supposedly a professional journalist. If you're going to be a professional journalist, be a professional journalist. If you're going to be a professional real estate investor, be a professional real estate investor. Don't go into Kansas City and not know that there's tornadoes. Don't go into Galveston, Texas and not know there's flooding. Don't be caught off guard by this stupid stuff. Like, it's not hard to figure it out. We looked at that house in Detroit and, you know, we did the macro search. Well, there's crime in Detroit. Headline. No, not headline. But what we also knew was that this particular neighborhood, probably not as bad as the 313 area code in general, and also very close to a major highway going into town, very close to a college, very close to a hospital. Like, this might be a great opportunity. And what else did we do? We looked at the pictures of the listing, and you can tell from the pictures it's a flipper who's already gouged out a bunch of the value. And if you buy this property, you're not going to get it because somebody already else got the value. Like, some idiot, though, Crystal's going to buy this property.
Oh, yeah. And not do any of the math. And sometimes that's what it's priced for. So always negotiate too. It was funny. I love The Office. And when one of my favorite episodes, when Idris Elba was the guest, and they were negotiating, you know, buying out the Michael Scott Paper Company. And he was like, give us your second offer. And then Michael, you know, turns to his friend and says, you never accept the first offer. So just tell us your second offer first. And it's like, that totally defeats the purpose of negotiation. That was funny.
You're talking about this moment during the intense negotiation, Crystal?
We are prepared to make you a very generous offer.
And we are prepared to reject that offer.
Michael, you haven't even heard.
Never accept their first offer. What is your second offer?
Comedy gold.
Brilliant. Just say that the next time you're selling a property. And we are going to reject that offer.
Yep.
Make me a better one.
Out of the gate. So yeah, definitely negotiate. And negotiate with facts. If you come with facts like, listen, I know insurance rates are high. I just want my numbers to work. Be honest and tell them, hey, I want this property. I just want the numbers to work. And since this is a flood area, and you can give, you know, reason. And then, hey, there's your negotiating tool, because you're not just making up. Because that was another thing when I was a realtor. It's like, is this guy trying to stick it to me? And it's like, listen, we just ask why. If you ask why, then you both come to a better understanding.
Yeah. 2 ways to get prepared. Learn how to ask outrageous questions. Go back and listen to our episode with Vicki Barron back in September. And to ask for more, listen to our interview in November with Dia Bondi, Lessons from an Auctioneer. Those are two great places to start when it comes to asking. When it comes to negotiating, if the person on the other side gets stuck, go back to December and listen to our episode with Michael McQueen, who talks about getting unstuck, why people get stuck in the middle of a negotiation and how to get people unstuck. Those are great places to start when it comes to negotiating. You know what, Crystal, though, if you want to elevate your financial life, we've got a show that you and I have both been on. By the way, the reason I bring this up is I was on it last week and you were on a few weeks ago. Of course, they have the amazing Crystal Hammond on way before the loser Joe Saul-Sehy. But if you want to elevate your financial life, check out the Inspired Money live stream podcast with financial advisor and our good friend, Andy Wong.
Yep, they have expert panelists, so you would tune in to hear from a roundtable of cool guests, myself included, who will help you shift your money mindset. Oh yeah, and Joe included too, and guide you on the journey to financial empowerment and success. They also had some other fun guests: Arrowverse star Katie Cassidy.
Oh, cool.
Thrash metal Anthrax guitarist.
That's your favorite music.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Master watchmaker Dan Spitz. And they've had Doc G. I do like Anthrax, actually.
Really?
Thank you very much. They were out like when I was in high school, too.
Are you a Motley Crue fan, too?
A little bit, yeah.
If you're looking to maximize your income, and that's really why we're all talking about real estate, you can learn the strategies to make more money and take control of your financial future. They go over budgeting, investing, stocks. They even talk about real estate like we do here. They cover everything.
Yep. And then give back, just like our conversation we're going to have, hopefully later. You're going to discover the joy of giving more. Our discussions include charitable giving, socially responsible investing, ESG, and making a positive impact on the world.
Sometimes Andy and his guests get quirky. They'll talk about collectible cars, watch collecting, alternative asset classes. They go live on YouTube every Wednesday at 6 p.m. You can listen to them or just listen to the Inspired Money podcast wherever you're listening to us now. So just hit pause for a second, go subscribe or follow Inspired Money with our friend Andy Wong.
Funny story about wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm in a landlord group. And it was the cutest conversation because the one lady was like, well, where do I find this episode? And the lady was like, well, you can find it wherever you listen. Where do you listen? And she said, I listen on my iPhone.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, oh, that's such a grandma answer. I listen.
We had a Valentine's Day giveaway for Stacking Benjamins. And we said, we're going to pay $200 for you and friends to go to a local restaurant. It can't be a chain. It's got to be a local restaurant. And this woman in the Instagram comments said, local, where are you located? Like, where do we have to go? Not local to me, local to you. So great. It's
That's
like, really?
cute.
Oh, coming up next, I think you're going to love this guest. Randy Molland is a force of nature. He's in his early 30s. And he's already, Crystal, had some life lessons that I think some of us in our 50s still need to hear. He's a guy that has figured out that you can get more by giving more. And, oh, I can't wait. Randy Molland coming up next. But before that, knock on the back. Doug must be taking a nap.
He's quiet today.
Doug, time for the pop quiz.
Hey there, Deeters. I'm Ruth's wrench-wielding repair guru, Neighbor Doug, and you are going to love this next rando we're about to pick up off the sidewalk. I got a tip that he's going to talk to us about how connecting with your community can help make your business more successful. Hell, what's more personal than rolling down your window and pointing out all the opportunities a guy standing in front of his yard can do to make his home and landscaping look better? Sure, I have to yell, but if you aren't passionate, what are you? They all appreciate it, giving me the #1 sign. Nice people in this neighborhood. But you know who's the master of connecting literally everyone in a community? The United States Postal Service, that's who. I mean, for 68 cents, you can get an important document or love letter or, my secret blend of herbs and spices mailed to any address in the U.S. In fact, the USPS reaches almost 153 million residential addresses and another 13 million businesses. I know, you haven't heard a word since I told you the stamps cost 68 cents. You're like, wait, that's how much they cost now? It's still incredibly cheap given what you can accomplish for less than $1, so just chill. You'll also be surprised to learn that it was on this day in 1792 that President Washington signed the Postal Service Act, thereby establishing the USPS. And he named some dude you've never heard of to be the first official USPS postmaster. However, he wasn't the very first. No, the Continental Congress actually established a postal service before we were even an actual country. Gutsy. And it was that group of total partiers who picked the most popular guy in class to be the first postmaster while we were still listening to those limeys across the pond with bad teeth and bland food. And that's our property pop quiz for today. Who was the first postmaster under the Continental Congress? I'll be back right after I go weigh my herbs to make sure they're less than 3.5 ounces. Hey there, Deeters. I'm free home inspector and totally choice herb gardener, Ruth's mechanic neighbor Doug. Back in 1792, good old George Washington thought the USPS should be an official government department, so he signed the Postal Service Act and chose some guy named Timothy Pickering to be top dog. Tim totally sounds like a guy who picked those nerdy blue shorts mailmen wear in the summer, am I right? Before a long list of people you've never heard of started running the U.S. Postal Service, there was one total stud who got things started on the right path. The answer to today's property pop quiz is none other than Benji Franklin. And now, let's see if we can find Randy Molland hanging out on the next corner. Ooh, there he is. Hey, Ruth, hit the brakes.
Crystal, is that our guest? Is that Randy?
It is Randy. What's he doing here?
Here, scoot over. Randy, come on, get in, man.
What's up, guys?
How are you doing?
Exhausted from all the walking, but I'm glad you picked me up.
Right, you walked from Canada, right?
Yeah, all the way from Canada.
Anybody who walks from British Columbia to Texarkana to be on our show, Randy's a friend of ours.
I love it.
Well, I'm so glad you're here because I love this arc of your story. Let's start where you start. You're 25 years old and you're learning to get into real estate. We got so many people that are joining us, our Deeters, Randy, that are just getting into real estate. Tell me about that first property and how you got into it and all the feels.
Yeah, I'll quickly just share what got me into real estate. And at 25, one of my best friends and mentors was 42 years old, and I had just bought my first house. And he said to me, Randy, in 25 years, when you pay this thing off, you're going to be able to be, retired and financially free. And you'll be able to live that dream. And I was like, man, 25 years, this is great. And unfortunately, 2 weeks after he said that to me, he passed away in a job site accident. And so I just watched my best friend and mentor die at 42 when he was telling me that I'm going to be able to live this financially free life when I'm 50. And I was like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't want to might not even make it to 50. So I just Googled how to make a ton of money and never work again. I found real estate investing and I said, cool, I'm just going to go pursue wealth and I'm going to retire by the time I'm 30. And so that's what started getting me into the real estate game. Like most people, I found bigger pockets. I spent a bunch of time just learning and educating myself through platforms like this and podcasts and different stuff, and had no money at the time because I just bought my first house for myself as a 3-bedroom townhouse. There's nothing to it. And I signed up for one of the guru courses. And while I was there, the guy said to me, hey, Randy, what do you think you could rent your house out for? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, let's look. And we found out I could rent it for $2,500. And he's like, so what's all your expenses? And I was like, oh, like $1,700, $1,800. He's like, so you could probably make about $500 a month from this. And I was like, yeah, I could. And he's like, cool. Well, I'd lived there like 4 or 5 months, right? My best friend passed away 2 weeks after I bought it. So I was there 4 or 5 months when I decided this. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to move out and go rent one of my bedrooms at my friend's house for $500. I'm going to rent my house out. And all of a sudden, my life became free. So my first deal was actually the house that I'd bought to live into. Went to one of these guru courses and the trainer saw some potential in me, got me to do this. I committed to it. I moved out and he said, Randy, I want to mentor you. I want to take you in. And he gave me some good mentorship and we started doing joint venture partnerships. So at 25 years old, I was out raising money from investors to go buy and renovate rental properties. So we're just buying single family homes, putting suites into them. And so that's what I did for my first properties. I found a partner that would wrote us a check for $50,000 and we went out and we bought our first property and renovated it, rented it out, and it made cash flow and profit. And we're like, well, that was easy. Let's just keep doing more of that. And that's how we continued to grow.
Okay, I've got 9,700 questions. I'm sure you do, Crystal, about all that. But I think it's fascinating that at 25, you're already house hacking, the first thing.
Yeah.
But the importance of this person that wanted to mentor you, I know that you're big on coaching and getting coaches. Tell me about the role how old are you now, by the way?
I'm 32 now.
Okay. So
still a baby.
Yeah.
But in 7 years, how big is your real estate empire today?
Yeah. So in ironicness, I've basically gave my real estate portfolio away back to my business partners, and I've gone down this new path of helping people add more giving initiatives to their business, which we can talk about later if we want to. But our portfolio at the time, when I stepped away just after 2022, we went on to go raise $12 million in 13 months, and we bought 4 or 5 development sites with partners. And I think it was like 150 condos or apartments that we were developing, as well as I think our portfolio was like 40 or 50 doors over 20 something properties at the time. So we liquidated some of that through 2020 to create cash flow and get into development. So it's kind of that weird space with 2020 where everything spiked and we made a lot of money. We liquidated some, bought some developments, and did some other stuff. So it's that hard justification of like, at one point we had X amount of doors, but then we sold a bunch and got into development, and then we sold a bunch of that. So it kind of varies around, but that's kind of the story of where we went into, is getting into more development side.
Gotcha.
And where is all this happening? Is it all in Canada? Is it a combination of?
All in British Columbia, Canada.
Nice.
In your backyard, stuff that you know.
And so, guys, one of the things I also realized when I talk to Americans, and I'm like, oh, we had like 50 doors and we're building like 100 units. Down in America, you just buy like 200 unit apartment buildings like they're duplexes. Up here in Canada, you can't even find a 200 unit building to buy. So just for context, to put 100 doors under a portfolio puts you at a little bit higher echelon in the space in Canada, because we just don't have the population. You know, it's like all of Canada is the size of California's population, and we're working in BC. So there's just not as big as portfolios, and it's not as easy to just go buy a few hundred units. We had to do it through 3 and 5 and 6 plexes.
Let's get back to the mentor who took you under his wing after your best friend died, who you also call a mentor. When you started working with them, that's one of many coaches you've had. You really are a guy that thinks that coaching might be a big key to your success?
Yeah, I'll tell you the simplest thing that I ever taught myself. I don't know where I came up with this idea, but it was this ROI on self-development where I just bought my first house. I had no money to my name. I had a $15,000 line of credit. I went to one of those guru courses and I said, okay, it's $15,000 to sign up for the back-end program. Well, how many houses do I need to flip, or how many things do I need to buy in order to make that an infinite return on my investment? And so when I was there, I signed up for the guru program on my line of credit, on my credit cards. I was one of those guys that did that story. And in our first property, we made $30,000 or $40,000. And I was like, well, that $15,000 I invested now has already paid me out 200%, and now becomes an infinite ROI that even if I decided not to go down the path of real estate, I learned a new skill for life that I paid back already. And so that's how I've looked at investing into my mentor. So then when that mentor asked me to take me in, I paid him 10 grand to teach me and support me. And he helped me go buy more real estate, raise more money and do more things, which bought me more deals. So my ROI on my investment went through the roof again. And so I just realized that I could buy time by buying people's brains. So I was not afraid to invest in mentors and coaching because I realized I could speed the process up. And at 25, I was very lucky by the time I was 27, 28 to have such great mentors, learn so much, and be raising millions and millions of dollars with a baby face like I have. It was quite the challenge.
For people just listening to us, Randy looks like he's maybe 14.
Yeah.
Which is a great problem to have, by the way. It's a fantastic problem to have. It is funny. We played over on the Stacking Benjamin show, Crystal. We played a comedian for our TikTok minute, a guy, I believe his name's Neil Brennan, but Neil's joke was, he said, if you think about college as if it's a business, like think about that. You walk into a bank and you go, hey, I want $100,000. Okay, well, what's your business plan? Well, I'm going to get blackout drunk for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Really? And wait a minute, there's more. I'm going to major in sociology. Right? And then what's your repayment plan? Well, over the next 95 years, I'm going to repay you $25 a month for 95 years. Like there's nothing about that makes sense. And yet, Randy, you talk about $15,000 to get access to somebody who's already an expert in a field that you're interested in. And we all go, what? Why would you do that? That sounds horrible.
And a skill set that you can use for life. Buying real estate is something that is so tangible. So that's exactly the attitude that I had there, Joe. I was just like, you know what? Even if this doesn't work out, I've learned a skill, and all I need to do is one property to pay myself back. And I did laugh at a lot of my friends that were still in college, coming out $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in debt. And I was over here flipping houses. I was an electrician by trade. So I was just a trades guy. And it's like, here's this dumb trades guy that had no debt, owned a house, owned a truck, and was flipping real estate comparatively to my friends coming out of school. And they were the ones that laughed at me when I invested $15,000 on a credit card. They took out huge student loans and had no guarantee. I at least controlled my outcome at my point. So 100% agree with you.
But there are a lot of people who go to these, not the guru you hooked up with, but you've seen these headlines like we have, Randy, where people go, they give some guru a ton of money. Crystal, we've done headlines about these people. We had one of these deals in Shreveport where a bunch of people end up suing the people. What due diligence did you do ahead of time, Randy, to make sure that this was going to be beneficial to you and not something you'd end up in a courtroom later talking about?
For my scenario, being young and new in real estate, I knew I needed money. I knew I needed money partners to invest into me in just the area I was in. I couldn't buy the real estate myself. We don't really have a ton of wholesaling opportunities up here in Canada. And so I knew my route was going to be buying real estate, renovating it, renting it back out, or flipping it, doing the BRRRR method. And so when I was in this room, one of the questions the stage asked is, who here has money that's looking to passively invest into real estate? And over half the people raised their hands in that room. And then he said, who here wants to just be working partners and doesn't have a ton of money? The other half. And I said, if I could be the best person in the half of people that didn't have money, and I could go collect all those people that had money, then that is a huge opportunity for me. And I realized that all the people with money invested into the program and all the people that didn't have money couldn't invest in the program. So I just put myself in that space of saying, if I invest, I'm going to be hanging out with a bunch of people that had hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest.
Hold on a second. You weren't interested in the guru at all. You were putting yourself in the room with the people that could make the difference.
That was it. And so that's how I got connected to their network. And we started running a meetup. After we ended that event, I went and collected all the names of the people that were there that signed up and said, hey, I want to run a meetup for all of us to stay connected. We started with 10 people in the back of a restaurant, and we ended up scaling our meetup to be about 120 people on a monthly basis and doing some really incredible donations and work. But that's how we actually grew our brand, was through this meetup we created from that event, where we realized if we brought a bunch of money partners together and we said, hey, we will go renovate all the properties, do the dirty work, all you have to do is write a check. And they go, that sounds a lot nicer than us having to do the work. Then that's what we did.
There's a famous book by Dr. Thomas Stanley, The Millionaire Next Door. You've probably heard of it. He wrote 2 other books that a lot of people don't know as well, which is Networking with the Affluent and Marketing to the Affluent. And it's funny, Randy, that what you said is a truth that Dr. Stanley talked about, which is, you see, I was a financial planner. A lot of financial planners go to the money show in their city, which is, at the big trade hall or whatever, same place they have the boat show and all these other home and garden show. He said, why would you go there? Because all your competition is there. Put yourself in a room where you are with the people you're trying to get to, and that is it. Those are the only people. So if you're looking for renters, find a place where a bunch of people that need to rent hang out. If you're looking for contractors, hang out where they hung out. You were hanging out with the money.
It was easy. And then once we learned the principle of using the equity in your homes to reinvest back into real estate, and this was pre-COVID, there wasn't as much interest flux and all this stuff. It was a pretty stable market. And so what we did is we just ran training programs that said, do you want to learn how to use the equity in your home to buy yourself retirement? And we would just run seminars on teaching people how to use the equity in their home, how to pull it out, how to invest into real estate. And then at the end, we said, hey, if you guys want to invest in real estate, go do it. If you want to invest in our portfolio and do none of it, this is an option for you. And so that's how we kind of built a bit of a niche in where we were, was we actually had to do some training. We didn't just knock on their door and say, hey, do you want to invest with us? We had to become experts. We had to learn a skill. We had to go hang with a bunch of doctors and lawyers and accountants and tell them, hey, we're running these really cool trainings about how you can use the equity in your home to build a stronger retirement. And they were like, sounds great. Like, I don't know how to do that. If you can teach me, let's go. And so we did a bunch of these trainings for 2 days where we just bought them lunch for the day, brought them in, taught them how to do it. And if they wanted to invest with us, they could. If they didn't, they went out and they had a skill to go do it themselves.
When did you get the inkling that charitable giving was going to be, there must have been an inflection point where you're like, you know what, charitable giving is really key to everything I want to do?
So I was chasing financial freedom by the time I was 30, right?
Nice.
A lot of the millennial concepts these days of I got to get rich quick, I want to be free, I want to travel the world, I want to have the laptop lifestyle. And so I did that. And as you've heard already, I did a lot by the time 25 to 28. I still had to work my job for the first bit. I still had to do a lot of other stuff. We were running meetups and buying properties and renovating and tenanting, doing everything. And at 28, I worked myself into a non-epileptic seizure and put myself in the hospital. And coming out of there, my doctor said, you're absolutely perfectly healthy. You were just caught up in the hustle culture, essentially. I didn't deal with the trauma and pain of losing my best friend, so I invested in some coaching in that space of personal development, and that's a whole different story. But coming out, I just said, universe, God, whatever, just give me a sign. What's next? Because waiting till I was 50 to retire wasn't going to work, and retiring at 30 wasn't getting me any closer. What should I do? And I heard a quote that said, if you want to make $1 million a year, build a business that does 2 million, give $1 million away, and you'll be the happiest millionaire on the planet. And I'm a pretty simple guy. I got a trades background. And I was like, that's simple. I'm just going to go do exactly what that quote says. And I'm just going to build impact instead of income. And if I do that right, I should make a lot more income than I ever imagined. So originally it started with donating $10 for every person that came to our meetup. So we charged $10 to come in the door to our meetup. And we donate that to Kids Sport Victoria. And so we scaled from 40 people to 120 people in our meetup. So we were donating about $1,200 a month to charity. And I saw the impact that had, but it got the buy-in from our community. So we'd stand at the front of the room and we'd say, hey, because 120 of you showed up to this meeting tonight, we were able to donate $1,200 to Kids Sport Victoria. Give yourselves a pat on the back and round of applause for just showing up and making impact. And all of a sudden, these people bought into that culture that we created of impact was the core value of what we wanted to do. And then as we started donating $10 per door per month from our portfolio, those same people that would come to our meetup because of who we were and how we were showing up wanted to invest in us because they knew, hey, if we can help you buy more real estate, you're going to make more impact. And that's how we started to scale our brand. We created a hashtag called Go Big to Give Big. And we just taught everybody in our networks, in our communities, like, you guys realize the bigger we go, the bigger we think, the bigger we look at, the more we're going to be able to give, the more we're going to be able to get back. And when we do that, we actually buy ourselves more happiness because the giving aspect is actually what made me beat burnout, beat exhaustion, get excited about where I was again and redo everything. So I refound myself through the giving initiative. And that's when I knew there was no going back to ever doing business for my own personal greed. I was going to build business to make impact in the world. And because I did that, I was going to get rewarded in a very handsome way with capital on the back end.
Have you had people push back and go, at the beginning of that story, you said, build a $2 million empire and give away $1 million, you'd be the happiest. Have you had people push back and go, Randy, I think I'd be happier with $2 million?
Every day.
What would you say to that person?
Absolutely. More money doesn't bring you more happiness. It just solves more problems, right? It eliminates the stress in your life. So if I dropped an extra $2 million in your guys' bank account, you would be less stressed, but you might not be happier, right? It eliminates the problems. But what we want to do is we actually want to buy our happiness. And so when I take that $1 million that I donated, it actually fulfills me and makes me feel on a whole different level of happiness. Like when you go to the gym and work out and it puts dopamine into your brain, so does giving. It has the same principles. There's a lot of statistics that show that people that donate or give actually live a little bit longer, live less stressful lives, are a lot healthier. And so I care more about the impact that I'm going to make with that $1 million because the happiness it's going to bring me. And when I'm happier, I show up for my family better. $2 million doesn't make me show up for my family better. $2 million doesn't help me be a better father. But when I'm out donating and serving, I'm an example for my family. I'm an example for my community. I'm serving in purpose. I'm healthier. I'm happier. And that's how I live my life. So that's the answer to that question is that, cool, $2 million might make your life easier, but it might not make you happier.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely a firm believer in that because every time I've given monetarily, it's found a way to come back. Like it's a formula. That's how it happens. And so I like how that's your focus now. So now with your giving, you're showing people how to make more. Like, so what are your workshops now? So they're real estate workshops, or what other kind of workshops are you teaching?
Yeah, so I started continuing doing this in the real estate, and we started going and finding more and more people that had more and more doors and teaching them how they could start doing this $10 principle. And I got really good at creating messaging and marketing around it. You know, we went on to go raise $12 million in 13 months, talking a lot about our giving principles that drew the right people towards us. I started teaching a bunch of people. We eventually built a mastermind here in Canada. It's one of the top rated masterminds in Canada called Synergy Mastermind. And we brought in all these people that had that philosophy of giving as a core value in their business. Well, that created an insane network of just like people that loved to give, not just financially, but their time, their knowledge, their ability. And so we started having this really cool group. So that was the next phase for me, was then saying, cool, I've helped a lot of real estate investors. Now we've got this community of people that loves to give inside the real estate space. And then since then, I've gone out and just opened my doors to all businesses to teach this principle and concept. I still work. I just had a proposal today with a company that's doing a real estate fund, and they're raising about $10 million for a fund to go buy a bunch of real estate. And they said, well, how do we hire you to come teach us how we can add these principles in, the messaging, the marketing, talking about it and making it work, so that when we talk to our investors, we can live in the purpose that we want to create. We've always wanted to give. We always want to do more. We just don't have the time to do it. We don't have the energy to do it. And we've never known how to talk about it. So that's why they hired me to come in now to go do that same thing that I was always doing. I just have a better formula and system now to support bigger organizations and help more people. And my end goal is eventually, I love the real estate space. I still own all the equity in my real estate portfolio. I still own my own portfolio, and I love working with real estate investors. But my whole goal, just think of this, like $10 per door per month. In my close circles of friends, I have 5 friends that all have 2,000 doors each. Well, that's 10,000 doors. That's $100,000 a month. That's $1 million a year donated to charity passively that nobody had to work for to donate. So if we start running our ROI calculators with a donation included in it, that's what I'm helping with a lot of real estate investors do now. Imagine where we get. That's just my 5 closest friends. You take, Crystal's friends, and you take Joe's friends in your portfolios, and just the people in your inner circle, you can get to $100,000, $1 million a month, and you have a $12 million charity. That's where I just really see capitalism changing in this space. And that's what I teach a lot of, is how do we shift our mindset from our own personal greed of, hey, I want to buy more doors and make more money, to, hey, what if I just added this tiny little line item that said $10 per door per month? And now when I bought that property, I also got to go solve world-changing problems by doing nothing different. Nothing in my life changes except for I add a line item in there and I move some money.
And your happiness then is through the roof. The brilliant speaker, John Acuff, I was speaking with recently, and I was asking him about burnout, Randy, and the same burnout that you went through, it sounds like. And he was talking about burnout happens when your actions don't meet your purpose, when you feel like you're doing a bunch of stuff, but that time is kind of wasted for one reason or another on stuff. This whole thing sounds to me like you started off really wanted to get rich quick and get to retirement fast. What I'm hearing now, though, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, this concept of retirement, it sounds like, doesn't even really resonate with you anymore. Like, I don't get I'm going to retire anytime soon kind of vibe, because your purpose is matching your action. Is that true, or is retirement someday still important to you?
There's a funny world where we talk about this, like retirement, like I can't wait to retire. I don't ever want to retire, man. If I can still make money and do good, like at some point, I'll still build businesses. I just don't need it for my own personal wealth anymore. I'll just continue to donate the money, but I'll still do what I want to do, because I believe as an entrepreneur, my duty is to make as much money as I can, to make as much impact as I can, and help as many people. And my way of doing that, aside from providing free courses to the world and teaching and training and doing all that, is like Grant Cardone talks a lot about, whether you like him or you don't. He says, my duty is to go make as much money as I can and donate as much of it as way. And so that's my philosophy as well. It's just, I want to make as much money as I can in this world and be a good steward of it, so that once I make it, it goes out the other end. And eventually I can be known as some guy that made a lot of impact, not made a lot of money.
Looking at your website, it looks like you don't just give money. It looks like there are some people in your community who give time. Is there a difference in happiness between giving money and giving time?
Everyone has a different happiness around it. I play both sides. I do it everywhere. So one of my things in my consulting company is for every 5 clients we take on, we support one nonprofit for free. So I volunteer my time to go out and actually support the nonprofits themselves, because I found that when I was writing big checks to nonprofits, they didn't even know how to manage the money. And I was like, well, why would I keep writing you checks? Why don't I just teach you how to be in a better position and think more like a business? So I do that for my time. But Joe, you want to talk about making impact? I went to Mexico quite a few times and I served down at some orphanage down there. One of my friends runs an orphanage of sex trafficked children. And you want to talk about seeing some impact and being like, man, I got work to do in this world. When you see children that have been sex trafficked and you're there hanging out with them and you're like, what can I do to help? And they're like, oh, well, we need clothing, we need shelter, we need food. And we only have 15 kids and there's 15 million of them. You're like, okay, understood the assignment. You're going to do the work. You're going to take care of these kids. And I'm just going to go build the biggest business in the world to fund you guys. So you don't have to worry about raising money and you can just worry about taking care of those kids. I still get goosebumps from it because it's so powerful when you actually get down there and see the impact. Ugh, changes my heart.
That's what I was going to say. I wish you were excited about all this stuff, Randy. If you had some passion that you brought to the mic, you might be a little...
I know.
Yeah.
I need to...
Well, yeah, I definitely, Randy, this is awesome because it is. We talk about changing neighborhoods and just imagine, like, you've convinced me, for all my projects, like at least $10 per month per door can go right back into that neighborhood, no matter what it could be. Beautifying the neighborhood, helping.
It's not going to make a difference to you, Crystal, make a huge difference to the community.
Right, yeah.
And imagine the teamwork that comes around that property and how much more people want to support you. And this is the thing that people don't realize, and these are some statistics for you. And this can be used in the wrong light or it can be used in the right light. So 89% of consumers are more likely to buy from or work from an organization that has a giving initiative, right? So 89% of people are more likely to switch brands to somebody that has it. So if your portfolio is comparatively offering same returns to somebody else and you talk about your giving initiative and they don't, you have an 89% better chance of attracting their attention to your stuff versus theirs. They're 80% more likely to remember the name of your company if there was a giving initiative attached to it. They're 4.5 times more likely to recommend you to somebody. So when you start looking at all these statistics, it's not in the low percentages. We're talking 80 to 90 percentiles. And what that means is this is not just a little blip in a trend. This is just the way the world's going. And so do you want to be ahead of the curve or do you want to get left behind? I always want to be ahead of the curve. No different than investing in the areas that make sense. I want to invest in things that make sense. So when you're going around the community and talking about how your buildings make impact and you're talking to your investors and you're talking about the impact that's all around everywhere, now you're able to start gaining more followers, more attention. People like your brand more. They want to invest more in you. And you just have a whole different presence. That's what that does for you. The community, your friends, your investors, everybody wants to see you win. Who does, Crystal, if you're going to donate $10 per door per month, I want to see you win. I don't want to see you lose. I'm going to send you investors. I'm going to gas you up. And I want to see you make as much money as I can because you're a good steward with your money.
You talked about, Randy, paying early in your career to get in the right room with the right people. I just know that working with nonprofits in my community, that the people you want to network with are always in the giving community. It blows me away when over the course of my career have met people that are takers and they're like, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, man, if you're a capitalist, you want to be in these rooms. You want to be giving. You want to be in them because you're going to network with the right people. And to your point, all those statistics point to people like you better if you are a giver and not a taker. And you know what? For some of us, for me, that doesn't really resonate, but I know that for some people that are just naturally, maybe it's the way they were brought up or whatever, where they're like, I can't give, like switching that around very selfishly, right? It's so funny. You can help the world and still be very selfish, like be the jerk you want. But what you'll find is if you help other people, you can be a jerk and help so many other people.
Totally. There's so much around that. And there's a concept that I was taught by somebody and it was take to take take to give to take, and give to give, right? It's a modalities. So take to take, someone just takes everything that comes their way. Take to give says, hey, I've received so much, I should probably give it away. Then somebody else has give to take, where they're like, I'm going to give you something, but I expect you to do something for me in return. I'm going to give you my free courses, but I expect you to make introductions, or I expect you to go sell it, or that kind of stuff. Give to give means I just give something to you for the pure joy it gives me. It's selfish. I get so much joy out of serving you, and I have no expectation. I'll share this podcast all over my networks with zero expectation of getting any back-end support from it. It's like, I just love supporting people. So when you can move to a give to give mentality, which is where often you'll find people at fundraising events or in charities or supporting, they want to help you just because they want to help you, not because they're expecting something in return. And that's a very cool space to live in. And when you start living in the space I live in, where I'm a super connector, I meet a lot of cool people, I make 2 or 3 introductions for every single person that I meet with zero expectation that they'll make any intros back for me. That's just the person that I want to be. How do I want to show up? And it makes me so happy when I get a message back when Joe messages me and says, oh my God, that intro you made, so great. It costs me nothing. It takes 2 minutes of my time, and it just builds my give to give mentality.
It is absolutely so fun. The concept of retirement goes out the door. People are like, Joe, you're so busy. You know, when are you going to retire? I'm like, what the hell would I do besides this? If I'm going to be doing anything, I don't think of it as busy. I think it's, guess what? I get to talk to interesting people like Crystal and Randy. Boy, that sucks. That's a tough I want to do that. And plus, if I die in the middle of a podcast, imagine the ratings.
Yeah.
Of that episode.
Of course.
No.
Did you hear that episode of Stacking Deeds where the dude died right in the middle? Like, that would be awesome.
Some good clickbait.
No.
Randy, if only you had an organization behind you that we could direct people to. I wish you did. So wait a minute, you do.
Yeah.
Where do we send our deeders to get more?
Absolutely. So the best way to go find me is just gobigtogivebig.com or Randy Molland on any social media, Molland. Anything that I talk about is just all about making impact in the world and how to buy yourself happiness. So heading over there, you can check it all out, and everything's all in one hub there. We've got our own podcast, and we've got our own communities and all that kind of stuff. But my whole modality is just, I love putting the most philanthropic entrepreneurs together. I just love it. When you put a bunch of good people doing good things together, great things happen.
Randy, thanks for mentoring our deeders on being great givers. I super appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me in. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah, get out of our car and walk back to Canada now.
It's an elbow groom.
Man, big thanks to Randy.
Oh, great conversation, as usual.
What a guy. I do want to talk, though, about Doug's trivia and go back to our writing meeting, because you called me the jerk. You got to be the chicken. I had to be the jerk. And I just want to shine a light on, there is one person, talking about the Postmaster General, who knew the price of stamps.
Yes.
And so we started calling her Grandma Crystal during the writing meeting.
Yeah, why not? I had to pull up my Bugs Bunny stamps that I have. I'm still a stamp person. I love stamps.
Did you collect stamps as a kid?
Well, my dad worked at the post office. He was a superintendent. So, yeah.
Cool.
But it is funny that most people don't know the price of a stamp. And I was like, you can do that now. Like, if you can tell me the price of a stamp, I'll buy you a drink. And you won't have to buy anybody drinks. Because nobody knows.
Well,
nobody knows.
Yeah, and that's confirmed by comedian Nate Bargatze right here.
Stamps make me nervous because I don't know how many you're supposed to put on. Where they're going to be like, you should put one more on. And they changed the price of stamps, and that's not in the news, you know. You don't find that out on Twitter. You have to find out from old people. They're the only people that know. They keep up with it. They're like, stamps went up. You're like, okay. All right. Is it $100? Like, they're furious. Is it $100 a stamp? It's 3 more pennies.
But you can substitute old people with Crystal. Just ask Crystal.
Yeah, please ask me the old lady question.
She knows.
That is hilarious. But that's another confusion. How many stamps do you put on something? It's like, oh, this letter's heavy. I need to put 6 extra stamps on here.
Hey, we finally got a call to Ruth's Rotary. It's about
Yes.
time, which is the part of the show where we take a call. And believe it or not, Crystal, we asked and we received.
All right, we would like $1 billion.
Well, we did. Apparently, we asked for the wrong thing.
Right, just mail it to Joe.
Because I love how Crystal trusts me that much. That's
Of
very
course,
nice.
definitely. I wouldn't be here if I didn't trust you.
Yeah. That's a good point. The bar is high. Let's see if the bar's high when it comes to callers. This is from Winston.
Ah.
Winston, thanks for calling Ruth's Rotary. What's up?
Yeah, man, this Winston from Atlanta.
God, no.
Me listen to your show back in Jamaica, and
No.
it inspired me, man.
No.
So moved here to find me fortune. I found a
What?
potential investment property, but it requires significant repairs
my
and
God.
renovations. How can I accurately estimate the monies I need of renovation and determine if it's worth the investment, man? So,
Oh, God.
so yeah, man, this really Winston from Jamaica.
Really,
Atlanta
Winston.
now, y'all know. I really appreciate your help, man.
I feel like he's half Jamaican, half German.
Irish. I was getting
get some
Ireland.
Irish? I got a little
like Luck of the
Indian
Irish.
there, too. Got a
I
little
feel like
Indian
that was the Lucky Charms guy
there. Yo,
on
man,
a date. He was on a date.
we got a gold at the end of the pot of the rainbow.
Right. He sounded like an Irish guy on a date trying to make himself sound taller. That's what I was getting from that voice. He wanted to be tall for some reason.
People that haven't seen you don't realize that you are a tall person, Crystal.
Yes.
And so when you have gone on dates, have you had guys try to like pretend they're taller?
Okay, if I were a guy, if I were 5 foot anything, I would just be like, yeah, I'm about 6 feet.
Ish.
Yeah.
Just say ish.
That's what you have to say. But yeah, there have been some dumb pickup lines like, girl, I'll cut you down to 5 feet. And I was like, that's not even funny. What? I don't get it.
I don't get that at all.
And it was a short guy, of course.
It's just kind of creepy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't get it. Yeah.
No.
Anyway,
I was just
back
wondering
to our
if you'd like
lovely
get up on their
caller.
tiptoes when they.
Our lovely, lovely caller. I do
Yeah.
have a lot of flats, but yeah.
Well, let's dive into that. That may or may not be Winston from Jamaica or from Atlanta, wherever. But I think he does have a real question,
Yeah.
which a lot of our deeders have, which is significant repairs and renovations. How can I accurately estimate the money I need for those renovations and determine if it's worth it?
So me starting off, definitely have a contractor, not even a contractor friend. Like in the beginning, I would go to these roundtable meetings. Well, they were monthly. So every month,
It's the number one place to start.
yeah, every person would share, okay, they would tell you where they are in the process. Either they were about to buy a property, so they're telling you the numbers on the property that they're about to buy, or they just finished a property. And so they'll tell you, okay, this is the contractors that I used. This is how much I spent on plumbing. This is how much I spent on electrical. And then at the end, they tell you if they either refinance it or if they sell it. So if they refinance it, they keep it and rent it out. So then they'll tell you, how much they're getting, collecting in rent. Or if they sold it, they're telling you, look, this is how much I made from the sale. So when they're telling you what they're about to buy, you get to look and see the condition of the property. So when they get to step 2, when they're done, you can say, okay, this is what the property condition was before, and this is what they decided to do. So I would say piggyback on one of those people and keep following. And the more buildings you follow and track, the more you'll get it. You'll get to know, okay, these are good floors or these are bad floors, or this is a good kitchen, this is a bad kitchen. So you're getting to learn the lingo of what to do. You get to see it.
Yeah.
And these meetings are priceless. They are priceless.
Do not, by the way, send a contractor out there by themselves, because I love what you said, Crystal. Follow them around and see what they look at and ask them questions, because this is a time to get free advice and free knowledge. It's funny. You're not going to know everything. In fact, you may know next to nothing the first time you're following a contractor around. But you know what? If everything they point out, Then you do research on that. Those are things that you know that time to look at the second time. And by the way, the second contractor that you go with is going to maybe point out some different stuff, which is why when you first start out too, I don't like going through a property with one contract. Later on, you're going to have your team. And your team, you're going to have a person you trust that you're going to go with, and they're going to help you. But when you first go to your first, second, third property, I would take 2 or 3 different contractors through there and follow them around. And it works on 2 different levels. Number one, like I said earlier, you're going to learn what they look at, and you're going to figure out what's important to them, which should be important to you. But then number 2, you're also going to see how they price out what those costs are. It's amazing watching my son work at this much faster than I've ever been able to with a little bit of rental property experience that I had. He very quickly now can go through a property and just go here, 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 here. What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Got it. It totally is, Crystal, like riding a bike.
Yep. The more you do it, the better you get. It's like second nature. So yeah, you'll be able to walk in, even smells. You'll be able to be like, oh yeah, there's mold or there's no mold. Like there's so many things you're going to learn, but you have to be in there. And even if you're looking, listen, people love free lunch. Be like, hey, can I take you to lunch and, chat with you about that last rehab you did, or hey, can I tag along to the next one? I'm just trying to learn. Like, don't be afraid to just speak up and chat it up with folks, because like real estate rock stars, they love other real estate rock stars, and they love bringing up the next generation or even the next flock. So people love sharing information. So that's a great way.
There was a time when I was very broke.
What?
And I needed to network. Well, it's in my book. I mean, I went through the valley of death with my money. But during that time, I realized I needed a better team, and I couldn't afford to take people lunch. But you know what's funny, Crystal? These people thought, because of what I did for a living, that I was somebody they wanted to network with. And so I would invite them. I'm like, hey, let's go have lunch. But I would always pick a place like Panera where we all wait in line separately and pay separately. So I would buy myself the cheapest thing on the menu, and they would go, oh, aren't you going to eat? And I go, oh, I ate before I got here. Or, I ended up double booked and ate already. So I'm just going to have a Coke and a cookie or whatever. And I was so starving watching them eat.
Oh, man.
But
don't torture yourself.
But my point is, if you're somebody who's just starting out, you do not have to buy them.
That's true too. Yeah.
But if you can, the best way to get to somebody's heart is through their stomach, mine especially. Yes.
And if it's a local restaurant too. But yeah.
Local? Where are you located?
That's so funny. That would never.
I think they might have been messing with us.
No.
Thanks for the question, Winston. So if you don't really love the fake Jamaica meets Germany meets Ireland meets whatever, you got to call us with your real estate question.
So please head to stackingdeeds.net/voicemail and we will get to your question. Poor Doug. He does triple duty today or quadruple duty. But I wanted to add too, this was so funny. Please also in the show notes. So go to stackingdeeds.net/show notes to get our hand delivered show notes weekly. But there's also a link to the basement. And someone had the funniest joke about Joe in the basement. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh.
They had 3 people. They were doing a game night. And by the end, you could see one guy sitting with 2 skeletons and the guy saying, so those are the instructions. So let's play. He spent so much time talking about the instructions that they were gone. They were dust.
The hardest part of that, Crystal, did you see my mom?
Yes. Yeah, she was like the first person to
in all capitals. Nailed it. It's like, thanks, Mom.
So come hang out with us in the basement because, oh my God, that was funny.
Make fun of me like Crystal and my mom.
with love, hashtag with love. It's all hashtag with love.
Well, coming up next week, we got another great guest. We got a lot more fun, but make sure that you go out and implement what we talked about today.
Yeah. And we want to hear about it. I know people have insurance stories. So please let us know especially like them going up on the rates and all this and that and trying to get claims. Please, we want to hear your stories.
And if you're an insurance agent, we'd love to talk to you too, to get
true. Yeah.
More
how it works or how you guys work. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. She's Crystal. Where do we find you online, Crystal?
Yeah, I'm at Condo Crystal online.
And I'm at Average Joe Money or at Stacking Benjamins Podcast on Instagram. We'll see you guys next week. Doug, what should we have learned today?
So, what should we do based on what we learned today? First, take some advice from Randy. Want to be happy in life? Stop thinking about retirement and start thinking community. You can do well and do good at the same time. Second, here's a to-do. Before investing in your next property, think this question. Why should I not invest in this town? Every place has an Achilles heel. You want to know what could go wrong before it actually goes wrong, and you're stuck without a plan. But the big lesson? The U.S. Postal Service is a federal agency. And don't ask me how I know this, but they get a little utsy when you try to mail your special herbs and spices through the mail. Thanks to Randy Molland for joining us today. You can find out more about his work at gobigtogivebig.com. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingdeeds.net.